Before recorded time, before the great kings and their stone monuments, there was a whisper. It was a secret held in the heart of a tall green reed, growing under a sun we would not recognize. This was not just a plant, it was a vessel. Inside its fibrous walls, it held a power unlike any other. A sweetness so profound, so divine, it was as if a piece of heaven had fallen to earth. The first humans who stumbled upon it, perhaps in the verdant jungles of New Guinea, did not just taste a flavor. They experienced a revelation. It was a jolt of pure energy, a moment of blissful escape. This was the birth of sugar, not as a commodity, but as a myth. A legend whispered from one generation to the next. This initial encounter was pure magic. Imagine it, a world of savory, of bitter, of salt and sour, and then suddenly this explosion of sweetness. It must have felt like a message from the gods themselves, a blessing, a sign of favor. The people who found it revered it. They didn't refine it or process it. They simply chewed the stalks, releasing the sacred juice, feeling its warmth spread through them. It was a ritual, a connection to something larger than themselves. This sweet reed held a promise of joy, a promise of life, a force that for a moment made the harsh realities of the ancient world simply melt away. In those early days, its power was contained. It was a local deity known only to a few tribes. Its influence was gentle, a quiet joy shared within a community. They had no idea of the giant they were holding. They could not have imagined the empires it would build or the suffering it would cause. To them, it was a gift, a simple, miraculous plant that offered a taste of paradise. It was a sacred trust. They guarded its secrets, passing down the knowledge of where it grew and how to coax its sweetness from the stalk. The world beyond their small corner of the earth knew nothing of this potent magic. But a power this great cannot be contained forever. It is in its nature to spread. Like a single drop of water that starts a ripple across a vast ocean, this sweetness was destined for a greater journey. It was waiting for the right moment, the right hands, to carry it out of the jungle and into the pages of history. The myth was about to become a reality for millions. The quiet whisper of the sweet reed was about to become a roar that would echo across continents, changing the course of human destiny. The world was about to be reshaped, all for the love of this one incredible taste. If you enjoyed this journey into the origins of sugar and want to discover more stories that shaped our world, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Join us as we uncover the hidden forces that changed history, one story at a time. The journey began slowly. A seed carried by a bird, a stalk transported by a curious traveler. From the islands of the Pacific, the sweet reed made its way to the ancient lands of India. Here, something changed. The Indians were not content to simply chew the stalk. They were alchemists of the kitchen. They discovered a way to capture the spirit of the reed. They learned to press it, to boil the juice, and to crystallize its soul into golden granules. They called it shakara. They had tamed the wild magic. They had created the first true sugar. This was a monumental leap. A power once fleeting and local was now portable. It could be stored. It could be traded. From India, the knowledge of this sweet powder began to trickle outwards, following the ancient trade routes. It was carried by caravans across the vast, dusty plains of Persia. The great Persian Emperor Darius, upon tasting it, called it the reed, which gives honey without bees. It was a marvel, a luxury reserved for kings and nobles. It was used not just as a food, but as a medicine, a rare and precious substance believed to cure ailments and restore vitality. Sugar was no longer just a taste. It had acquired a status. It was a symbol of wealth, of power, and of exotic faraway lands. It was a treasure worth seeking. Then came the armies of Alexander the Great. His soldiers marched into India and found this incredible honey powder. They brought stories of it back to the Mediterranean world, but it remained a curiosity, a whisper from the East. It was the Arab traders who truly became the masters of sugar's destiny. They embraced it. They perfected the methods of cultivation and refinement, creating vast sugar plantations across the Levant and North Africa. They introduced it to Europe through Spain and Sicily. For the first time, the West had a real taste of the sweet power that had long been a legend of the East. Even then, in medieval Europe, sugar was an extravagant rarity. It was known as white gold. It was sold in apothecaries, ounce by precious ounce, alongside the most exotic spices. A small cone of sugar was a gift fit for a monarch. It was displayed at royal banquets as a sign of unimaginable wealth, sculpted into elaborate castles and figures. People marveled at it. They craved it. But it was still a dream for most, a taste of a world beyond their reach. The stage was set, the demand was growing, and the world was on the cusp of a revolution that would be fueled by this insatiable desire. The world changed when the explorers set sail. Men like Columbus were not just searching for gold or spices. They were searching for new lands where the sun was strong and the soil was rich. They were searching for places to plant the precious sugarcane. When they found the islands of the Caribbean and the vast coasts of Brazil, they found a paradise for sugar. The climate was perfect. The potential was limitless. And suddenly, the dream of sugar for everyone, not just for kings, seemed possible. This was the beginning of the sugar empires. Nations would rise and fall based on their ability to control this sweet commodity. Portugal, Spain, Britain, France, and the Netherlands. These great European powers threw themselves into a race to claim the best lands, to build the largest plantations, and to produce the most sugar. Islands that were once home to quiet indigenous communities were transformed into massive agricultural factories. The landscape itself was remade. Forests were cleared, hills were terraced. Great mills were built with giant rollers to crush the cane and massive boilers to cook the juice. The air, once clean and clear, became thick with the sweet, sickly smell of boiling sugar and the smoke from the refineries. An entire world was being built around a single crop. This white gold fueled the economies of Europe like nothing before. It created immense fortunes. The profits from a single sugar plantation could dwarf those of a traditional European estate. Cities like Bristol, Liverpool and Bordeaux grew rich from the sugar trade. Banks were founded, insurance companies were established. An entire financial infrastructure emerged to support this massive global enterprise. Sugar was no longer just a luxury item. It was the engine of a new kind of global capitalism. It connected continents in a web of commerce, shipping and finance. The hunger for sweetness was building a new world order. The power it granted was absolute. Nations went to war over tiny islands in the Caribbean that were little more than sugar factories. The island of Saint-Domingue, now Haiti, became the most profitable colony in the world, producing more sugar than all the British islands combined. The wealth it generated for France was staggering. Sugar was political power. It funded armies and navies. It dictated treaties. The fate of empires was decided not on the battlefields of Europe, but in the sugarcane fields of the New World. A simple plant had become the cornerstone of global power. But every coin has two sides, and the dazzling story of sugar has a dark, terrible secret. The sweetness that graced the tables of Europe was produced by the most bitter of human experiences. The sheer amount of labor required to plant, harvest and process sugarcane was immense. It was brutal, backbreaking work under a relentless sun. The European settlers and colonists would not or could not do this work themselves. And so, to feed their insatiable hunger for sugar, they turned to a solution of unimaginable cruelty. They turned to slavery. A terrible choice that would stain the history of sugar forever. Thus began the transatlantic slave trade, one of the largest forced migrations in human history. Millions of men, women and children were captured in Africa, torn from their homes and their families. They were packed into the holds of ships like cargo and sent across the ocean on a horrific journey known as the Middle Passage. Many did not survive. Those who did were sold at auction in the New World and condemned to a life of forced labor on the sugar plantations. Their lives were measured not in years, but in harvests. Their humanity was denied. Their spirit was crushed, all for the production of a sweet powder. Life on a sugar plantation was a vision of hell on earth. From sunrise to sunset, the enslaved were driven by the whip. The work was dangerous and exhausting. In the fields, they faced the sharp leaves of the cane and the venomous snakes that hid within. In the boiling houses, they faced the risk of horrific burns from the scalding vats of sugar juice. The average life expectancy for an enslaved person on a Brazilian or Caribbean sugar plantation was terrifyingly short. It was a system that consumed human lives as voraciously as it produced sugar. The sweetness in a cup of tea was paid for with an ocean of tears and blood. This is the terrible paradox of sugar. It is a substance that brought moments of joy and pleasure to so many. But its history is rooted in profound suffering. We cannot separate the two. The wealth of nations, the rise of empires, the very development of the modern world economy, it was all built on the backs of enslaved people. Their stolen labor was the hidden ingredient in every sugar bowl. To understand the story of sugar is to understand this deep and painful truth. It is a story not just of sweetness and power, but of exploitation and immense human cost, a cost that we are still grappling with today. As the centuries turned, the machine of sugar production only grew larger and more efficient. The Industrial Revolution brought steam power to the mills, making it possible to process more cane, more quickly than ever before. What had once been the luxury of kings slowly became a staple for the common person. Sugar was no longer just for special occasions. It became a part of daily life. It was stirred into the tea of factory workers, giving them a cheap burst of energy to endure long, grueling shifts. It was baked into breads and cakes, transforming the very diet of the working classes. The hunger for it became universal. This shift created a cycle. The more sugar that was produced, the cheaper it became. And the cheaper it became, the more people consumed. It was woven into the fabric of society. It became a comfort, a reward, a quick and easy source of pleasure in a world that was often hard and grey. Food manufacturers discovered its power. They began adding it to everything, not just for sweetness, but to improve texture, to preserve freshness, and to make their products more appealing, more addictive. The insatiable hunger was no longer just a desire. It was being engineered. Think of the emotions tied to this substance: the joy of a child's birthday cake, the comfort of a sweet treat after a long day, the shared ritual of a cup of coffee with a friend. Sugar became deeply entangled with our culture, our memories, and our feelings. It became a symbol of celebration, of love, of home. We passed this love down through generations, teaching our children to associate sweetness with happiness. We had domesticated the wild magic of that ancient reed, but in doing so, we had also allowed it to domesticate us. Its pull had become an instinct. And so, the quiet whisper from the jungles of New Guinea had become a deafening roar in the modern world. From a rare medicine to a royal treasure, and from an imperial commodity to a daily staple, sugar's conquest was complete. It had conquered our palates, our economies, and our cultures. It had reshaped the world in its image, creating a global population with a shared, deep-seated craving. We had built a world that ran on sugar. But we were only just beginning to understand the true price of this all-consuming relationship. The final bill was yet to come. Today, on this day, July 24th, 2026, we live in the world that sugar built. Its legacy is all around us, and it is inside of us. The empires have fallen. The slave ships no longer sail. But the echoes of sugar's journey remain. The immense sweetness that once felt like a divine gift has revealed its other face. We now understand the hidden costs, not just in human history, but in human health. The very thing that gave us a quick burst of energy, a moment of joy, has become a source of chronic disease. We are living the final chapter of sugar's epic story. The paradox continues. The same substance that fueled the rise of the working class is now linked to the modern epidemics of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. The cheap calories that once sustained labourers are now contributing to a global health crisis. The force that brought pleasure is now a source of quiet suffering for millions. We are confronting the biological consequences of our historical appetite. Our bodies, which evolved over millennia in a world where sweetness was rare, are struggling to cope in a world where it is everywhere. The echoes of the past are written in our very bones, in our metabolism. We are caught in a difficult place. We are the inheritors of this complex history. We know the dark parts of the story. We know the health risks. And yet the craving remains. The cultural associations are powerful. The food environment we have built makes it nearly impossible to escape. Sugar is a ghost, a powerful, invisible force that haunts our supermarket aisles, our family traditions, and our deepest biological urges. To break free from its grasp is not a simple choice. It requires a conscious effort to understand its power and unlearn the habits of centuries. The story of sugar is, in the end, the story of humanity. It is the story of wonder and discovery, of ambition and creation. But it is also a story of greed, exploitation, and unintended consequences. It teaches us that the things we desire most can come with the heaviest price. That ancient reed, which once offered a simple, sacred taste of heaven, has led us on a long and complicated journey. And now we stand at a crossroads, forced to look back at its path and decide what its legacy will be for the generations yet to come. The story is not over. We are writing the next page right now.